What's up, my man?
What's going on? The cat. I'm on with the cat. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing good, dog. You look like you going to a funeral. Boy, you so sharp.
Hey, listen. I'm blessed with the opportunity to talk with great individuals like yourself. The least I could do is try to look halfway decent, bro. Listen, 3-time karate champion. You participate in training camps for the Atlanta Falcons, the New England Patriots. Spent time in the WCW, time in the WWE. Is it safe to say that you were and that you are a natural born athlete?
Man, you know what? I wouldn't say natural born, but
Really?
I'm the kind of person with my determination.
Okay.
All I got to do is reach. I still feel like that. All I got to do is put myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of rise to the top. You
Okay.
know, so long as I went, and it don't have to be natural. It's just hard work.
Sure. Okay. I mean, well, brother, for you to have accomplished the things that you did physically and that you continue to do, I mean, that says a lot about your ability to push yourself and that perseverance. Now, is that something that you gained? Is that something that an uncle, a aunt, a grandfather, your dad, who instilled that value in you?
Man, God put that in me, man.
Okay.
That's some God work.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
He had to put it somewhere on this earth to get to me.
Okay.
In some kind of way, it got to me, and I'm still using it. I tell all my karate students, when I stand in front of Judgment Day, when I stand in front of God, He wants to say, "What did you do with your talent?" I won't say I left it all on earth. I left it all. I gave it all away.
Mm-hmm.
So anything I'm involved with, I like to think that I'm motivating people as well, not just showing people, not just entertaining people. That's a peculiar thing. When I was in WCW, people used to think I was entertaining.
Okay.
And I was. It was just more of I got a talent that I want to be able to show people, to give people. So.
Sure. Okay. That works. Now, how old were you when you first started training martial arts, and what was the first martial art that you trained?
I was a little old bad joke. I was about 8 years old, man. I was trying to fight everybody. I had a bunch of uncles and everybody. I was one of those guys. I was one of those red hair, brown hazel eyes, little light-skinned kid who was trying to fight everybody.
Oh, man.
This old man, we had an old man on the street, and I remember this guy because he was missing one eyeball.
Oh, wow.
So, he had the real eyeball, then he had that fake eyeball that kind of look everywhere. And his name was Snoop. And he used to drink all the time.
Okay.
So he saw me getting into it with a guy who was about 3 or 4 years older than me, a couple of inches taller. And he broke up the fight with me. He said, "You about to go home." He said, "Your little bit of tail." He said, "You out here trying to fight. You about to learn how to fight before you try to get into a fight with that big old guy. You up here trying to fight that big old guy." He just said, "You need to learn how to fight." And I was like, why do I need to learn how to fight if I already know how to fight? I know how to fight. And I remember him saying, "You need to go learn how to fight. Suppose I had my little brother. Suppose somebody attack your little brother. What are you gonna do? You out here trying to fight these older guys, and you need to learn how to fight." So after he said that, he made some sense, man, because that same night, my father took us, my brother and I, to see a movie. And the movie was Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury.
Uh-oh.
And I sat there, man, as soon as I walked and sit down and started looking at that big screen, and I saw this guy kicking people and doing all this stuff, I said, that's what I want to do, Dad. So it's a scene in the movie to where Bruce Lee is angry because all this other kung fu school had killed his sensei. So he decided he gonna beat up every karate school around. He gonna take over every karate school in town. Yeah. So I just remember him going into this one karate school, and it looked like it had about 100 guys in there. And I remember he was trying to fight everybody in the school. It was just him. And I remember they put a big circle around him. And they had everybody had Bruce Lee in the middle of the circle. And he was so cool when he took his gi top off fold it up, put it down. Then he had his hands up. He said, now I'm ready. And I remember they were coming at him from all angles. And he would kicks and punches were flying. The guys were flying everywhere. And I told my dad, I said, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
So the next week, I tried it out. I got my little brother, about 10 of his friends.
Okay.
And I told them to surround me. I was going to go to town on them. And I'm going to tell you, they were about 3 years younger. It still didn't work out good for me because they took care of me in that middle. And then that same guy, Snoop, came and said, what are you doing now? And I was like, I want to see this movie. And he was kicking it. He said, they call that Kung Fu. I said, Kung Fu. And Snoop said, yeah. He said, I told you, you got to learn how to fight. I said, well, he said, somebody's going to kill you out here. You know, he had pull out. He said, first you fighting a big teenager, and now you fighting a bunch of little kids, you little young guy, and you getting beat up by both. He's like, kid, you about to learn that's Kung Fu. And I said, what do you learn that at? He said, you got to go to a karate school. They got schools you go to, and they'll teach you how to do it. And I just remember that one eyeball going around, and I'm trying to follow his eyeball, but I was able to listen to his words when he said, you need to go to join the class and learn that stuff. You can't just go out here just start kicking people. You're going to get killed out here in the street. So I went in, and it was so funny, man, how God presents stuff. It came too because that next day, one of my best friends, I had known him about 2-3 years. Okay. And it just so happened, I walked to his house, which was a few streets over from my street. And I remember knocking on his door, and he jumped out the car. He had this baggy white suit on. Then I was like, what? Why you dressed like that? He said, man, my mom, man, I take karate. I said, what? He said, yeah, I take karate. I said, that's what I want to do. He said, well, tell your dad to bring you over to my karate school where I practice, and we can take karate together. And him and I still friends until this day. Both black belts. I got 5 black belts. But then the next week I talked to my dad, and he took me over to karate class. And that was like in 1975. I was about 10, 12 years old. Wow. And I've been doing it ever since then. Okay.
How many different styles of martial arts have you trained, and what would you say?
I got 4. I got 4 styles that I'm trained now. I'm a legit black belt in 4 different styles. Okay. And I'm working on probably my most difficult, the hardest style of all, and it's called Oyama. Oyama it's directed from Kyokushin. Kyokushin was what my instructor was teaching. Okay. But he named it after his family, the Oyama family. And the Oyama guy, the youngest brother, 87 years old, it was 3 brothers who they was killers. I mean, they were Japanese maulers, we call them shooters. And they came here from Japan just to teach Kyokushin. And Kyokushin was a style that was created by Martial Oyama in Japan. So these Oyama brothers came over, man, and they were such they call them shooters. That's the only thing, which means they knew exactly what they could do, and they did it. Matter of fact, 2 of the brothers moved to New York, opened a school. Once they got from Japan, they moved to New York, opened a school with one of the guys up there, and then they all had to get extra jobs to make money until they built the class up. So they became bouncers in a nightclub. And all we said, they got fired 2 weeks later. And the story is, when they would catch somebody that was drinking or started something in the club, they didn't play around. They didn't just subdue you and put you down and put you out. They put your lights out. So they were too physical for the bars and being bouncers. So my Psycho Shihan is one of the Oyama brothers. He's 87, one of the creator. He's down in Birmingham, Alabama with his hair. and I'm doing it here. My teacher is Takahashi, who was one of the first generation to take this style. So he's teaching me now, and right now I'm working on my brown belt in this difficult style. Been in it 4 years.
Wow. So you said you have 4 black belts. You working on your 5th. Are the other 4 black in a different forms of karate?
Yeah, they different form. They different form of karate, kempo, shaitan, taekwondo, and aikido. So, and I also have some training in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
You know, so yes.
Okay. With the kempo, is it Ed Parker's American Kempo?
Ed Parker was the one that signed my 2nd degree black belt.
Really?
Yeah, he signed my 2nd degree black belt. I had just finished playing football, and I got my degree from here from guy Bobby Walker, who was a 3rd degree. He gave me my black belt, and Ed Parker signed my 2nd degree black belt. So I got it in Connecticut.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. You got to meet Mr. Parker before he passed. Wow.
Oh yeah, man. Right. But you know, it was so funny. I didn't know the history of karate and martial arts. I was just a kid who took up a karate class. Who took a karate class. So in karate class, the teacher tell you to put your gi on, show you how you tie your belt, show you how to do a couple of kicks. They tell you how you're supposed to act. You're supposed to be a good student, a good person, a good human. You're supposed to be focused, disciplined. You're supposed to be all those things. So they tell you those things. But people ask me now, why are you still doing this? Because I said, I love martial arts and karate so much that I wanted to know the history. And right now, I'm not just learning a couple of kicks and punches and how to do forms and kata. I'm actually learning the history of this style of martial arts that I'm taking. Oyama.
Sure. I mean, to just listen to you speak, from thinking about our phone conversation and then the homework I did, brother, it seems like martial arts have just been a blessing to you in multiple facets, even in terms of your introduction into professional wrestling with the WCW. You know, you were Eric Bischoff's son's karate teacher, and that's how you got exposed to him from seeing you do that. And he, if I'm not mistaken, he invited you to come on in and do it, and you rejected it. You rejected him initially, but then agreed. What made you change your mind?
You know, it's so funny how I met Eric Bischoff. You know, and it was true. You know, when I stopped playing football, it was time to get a real job.
Okay.
And I tried my own business. I tried working for a couple of companies, and I just. It just wasn't me. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do what I really need doing, but at that time wasn't a lot of money in karate. But I was able to get a real good karate teaching job on the what we call the rich side of the tracks. You know, on the side was middle class to upper class family, and they paid a lot of money just to get the kids into karate. So anyway, I became a karate instructor, and it just so happened one of my students was Garrett Bischoff. Garrett Bischoff is the son of Eric Bischoff. He was about 9 years old then. He used to come to class and in some kind of way he was just fun. He was a tough kid. They all were tough, but he was a tough kid. He was a kid that worked hard. He played hard. He was very respectful, you know, and I was almost like his big brother in karate. You know, he'll learn something. If he didn't get it that day from the chief instructor, I will work with him out the class and say, okay, stay a few minutes out the class and we'll work on that kick and we work on that form. And he did all the time. So, you know, it got to where when he would come to class, he didn't want to work with the class. His mother called and asked me, said, hey, Mr. Miller, can you work with Jared, you know, Garrett, on his forms? And I said, yeah. So, you know, one day he came back in, and I remember this. I remember telling him about how to do certain things. And we had kids in there who father or had somebody at home who knew some kind of form of karate, taking a few classes.
Oh wow, okay. Huh.
So every kid in there had somebody in their family. It was an uncle or granddaddy or somebody that took karate. So when you give them something, they'll go home, and most of the time they'll talk to the person in their house, then they'll come back, and everything that we showed them correct, they were doing it wrong. Because whoever they were talking to didn't know enough karate to fix that. Yeah. But this kid, Garrett, came back and his technique was a little better. Then I was like, I finally asked him, I was like, Garrett, who had you working with somebody else? He said, no, just you. Then I was like, man, who taught you how to do this kick like that? He said, oh, my dad worked with me. I said, oh, your dad know karate? He said, yeah, my dad did karate before too. I said, oh, that's great, man. That's good. So, you know, he never told me who his dad was. Like his dad, Eric Bischoff, was the big boss over WCW.
Sure.
Eric, when his mother came, she was this little blonde lady. She'd come in, sit down, watch class, then they'll leave. Bye, Mr. Miller. But the father came in, and he came in one day, and I remember he had this dark black hair with the whitest teeth I ever seen. And he stayed on the phone the whole time, you know, doing the class.
Right.
And he stayed on the phone the whole time. Matter of fact, when Garrett got ready, Garrett would run outside and meet him because he couldn't even sit in the dojo because he was on the phone talking business. So one day, Garrett came and Garrett said, my dad wanted to meet you. And so he was busy last time he was here. So it was during the class. I said, okay, we got sparring class tomorrow. Tell him to come out to sparring class, and I sit down and talk to him. You know, occasionally we'll get parents to come in and want to talk to the instructor, either thank us or tell us something that the kid is going through that he may need our help with, or something like that. So, you know, I didn't know what he wanted. He just said he wanted to meet me.
Okay.
By that time, I had been working with Garrett for a year. You know, I get there early. Every time his mom tried to pay me, she was like, here. I said, no, it's okay. You know, I'm making enough money from the school.
Wow.
Teaching.
Okay.
So I wasn't taking the money. So sparring day came, and sparring days was set up in a way to where I had 5 instructors.
Okay.
And I put all 5 of my instructors, which are all black belt, from the age of like 17 up to like 27, 28 at that time.
Okay.
And I lined up all my 5 instructors, and then I put anybody who wanted to spar, they had to start with the first one, then you move down to the next one, somebody else move in. So, you know, they were rotating down towards me.
Sure.
So when class started, you know, usually it may every now and then you get other black belts from other schools to come in and want to spar, you know, and get some work in. And most of it for the students. Okay. So anyway, Garrett come in, he was a little late. Then his dad come in, and I see this old gi he had up on his arm with a black belt on it. He said, Ms. Miller, can I work out with you guys? I said, yeah. Okay. So he put his gi on. We started working out, boom, boom. I'm on one end, I'm just having fun, messing around. And then I hear a lot of noise. You know, when guys getting at it, you can hear it. Right. You know, you can hear there's something going on, somebody running, falling, breathing hard, you know, something going on down on the other end. So I didn't have time to look because I'm working with somebody down here. Sure. So then I said, okay, stop, the bell ring. I said, switch. So what they do, they go from one black belt to the next black belt. So his father was on the other side. So he was facing all our black belts. Okay. Wow. So then I hear a little bit more noise. Boom, kick, punches, people falling. I was like, man, they training hard down there. Yeah. So then I just happened to look, and the noise keep coming closer to me. So this time I was like, let me see what's going on. Let me tell you something, man. Eric Bischoff was kicking ass in there. This dad was kicking all my karate teacher asses. I mean, he was like really getting at them. That was him chasing them. And I was like, what the world? So I'm looking at him, and then the next fight, he did the fight before me was a little tougher fight for him because it was supposed to be, because the guy was like 26, 6'4". He had some experience in tournament.
Okay.
Man, I watched it, and let me tell you something. Eric took advantage of this kid. He beat this kid all over. I said, this man can fight for real. So then, you know what happened? He lined up in front of me. So when he lined up in front of me, I kind of said, you know what? That part came out of me. You know, I was 28. Like, I'm gonna show this. You know what? Something. Let me show not to come to my school. So we start fighting, and of course, I was too much for him. My kicks were flying everywhere. Boom, boom. But then I heard a voice. Everybody was cheering because we was the only two fighting. Then I heard a voice that said, that was cheering said, come on, Dad. And I remember recognizing that voice usually be, come on, Mr. Miller. So it's something hit me to I said, oh, this is father. So I'm not gonna fight him like that. So I kind of, you know, I just kind of took it easy, held back a little bit. Like he'll try to kick me and I'll flip over, do something entertaining. He'll come at me, I'll jump up over his head and kick. You know, I would do, cause there I was like 6'3", 230 pounds. And I was flying. You know, I could jump off the wall and kick people. So I was doing all these moves and stuff. He tried to sweep my leg and I flipped out of it, something I've seen on TV. And when it was over, you know, I looked at him and I said, man, you pretty good. Then he said, no, you're really good. So we started to talk out there. He said, listen, first of all, I want to thank you. He said, for what? He said, for not taking it to me. He said, I know when I was outmatched. And I was outmatched with you. And I like to thank you for not doing that. Then he started to tell me who he was. That he was Eric Bischoff, the president of WCW. And I said, oh, yeah, I watch that sometime. He said, yeah, he said, man, we can use somebody like you, somebody young, somebody talented. He said, you'll be good at this. And he just said, here go my phone and call me at my office next week. And he said, you don't have to do anything, you'll come right in. So I kept his phone number about 2 weeks. I didn't call, you know, I worked with Garrett, continued to work with Garrett. Then it was so fun. I decided to go to a new gym. LA Fitness wasn't around then. We had something like Main Event or Gold's Gym. So I decided to go to a new gym that opened. And I remember going to the new gym, and as I was walking through the gym, I looked and I saw Harlem Heat in there, Booker T and Stevie Ray. And I was a fan of them. So I stopped, told them who I was. I started to talk to him. And I said, well, you know, I may do it. I'm thinking about it. And he was like, yeah, it's good, man. So you should do it if you can. That's what Booker T said. Booker T didn't know me. This was that first time talking. So talking to him. So I said, well, Booker T, I got this guy who told me that he'll get me in. He said, yeah, if you got somebody good to get you in, then he said, come on in. Then I said, yeah, Eric Bischoff. He said, man, if Eric telling you he couldn't come here, he said, you need to do it. He said, he's the man though, that said everything he touched turned into gold. Said if that's the guy telling you to come and wrestle, you should do it. So then another month went by, you know, and I want to make about like $2,000 a month or $2,500 a month. That wasn't even enough to pay for gas and light bill. I was living on my own, you know. So it wasn't the money. So Eric called me and Eric said, hey, Ernest. He said, wait, why haven't you called me? He said, I told you to call me. And I said, well, I'm going to give you a call. He just said, I tell you what, I'm going to come and get you. Let's have lunch tomorrow. So he took me out to lunch. He came pick me up. Nice. I'm telling you this process because it means something at the end to me.
Sure, of course. Please.
And he took me out to lunch the next day at karate. He came, I was there I get there by 11. 1 o'clock, he pulled up. He pulled up in his car. We went to a sushi place.
Okay.
It was my very first time eating sushi. So I didn't know too much about it.
Okay.
You know, and I didn't want to eat it. But, you know, I didn't want to tell him. I did not want to, you know, I want something else, you know.
Right.
So sushi place, man, and he ordered all this raw fish and everything. And I was like, I didn't do anything but look at the meal the whole time.
Okay.
So he's at the end, he was like, you should have, he's like, we talked, first thing he told me, he said, hey man, listen, you a giver. I like the way you are. I like the way you work with kids. You can talk. You sound like Muhammad Ali. You're a good-looking guy. He said, if you come and work with us in wrestling, I can assure you, I can make you a very wealthy man. That's the first thing he said. He said, I can make you a wealthy man. Wow. He said, all you got to do, and I'll take care of you. So, and then when we got through, the first thing he said, next time we won't eat sushi. You should have told me you didn't want no sushi. And I'm like, it was okay. So, you know, I walked away and I still didn't call him for another month. Then wow. Finally called me. He said, Ernest, what are you doing? Why are you not, how much money are you making? I said, I'm making $2,500 a month. He said, listen, I'm going to give you that every week just to get in school, just to learn the stuff. And you know, and I was like, okay, give me 2 weeks. He said, why give you 2 weeks? I said, well, I got a black belt. I got a class that is close to graduation and getting their black belt.
Sure.
And I don't want to leave these kids now since they got so close to getting their black belt. I don't want to walk out on them. Because I said, sometime when you do that to a kid who'd worked so hard, you'd have told him, this gonna be the best day of your life in martial arts. And then if I wasn't there, it could have, you know, did something, sparked something in them that would have carried through life. So he was like, man, you always give me. He said, don't worry about it. When you get ready to come. That's him aside. Your son, one of the students that's about to get his black belt. I just want to be there to present them a black belt. Okay. So nice. So man, so you know, when that graduation was over, I called Eric. He set up everything. I went to the school. Instead of giving me that, he gave me more money because he said he appreciated me being a giver. Wow. And I was there in WCW and went through some good things and went through some terrible things. But let me tell you this, because first of all, I got into a business that a lot of people was second generation in there. A lot of people grew up. That's all. People like the Macho Man, Hogan, Ric Flair. They had to really travel the road to get to where they was. You know, WCW this is just like playing flag football one day, and then the next day you on the NFL field playing with some of the great. Right. You know, so yeah. So I ended up in WCW, man, to where I knew nothing about wrestling. I didn't know I knew nothing about what to do when you're on TV. I didn't even know how to autograph and sign my name on paper. You know, I just put Ernest Miller. They said, no, you got to put the cat. People want to see the cat. They don't know Ernest Miller. So I had to learn everything on the run. Think about it. In the year that I was in there in 90, what was that, 90s to 2004, it was the biggest time of wrestling. Every superstar that was in pro wrestling or had been developing pro wrestling was there. Everybody was working. Dusty Rhodes, Ernie Ladd, Macho Man, Goldberg, The Rock, Stone Cold. You had all these names in there. In some kind of way, I got over. You know, I got over. I became one. The fan really liked me. So I started having good ratings at times that they put me on the show. But one thing I remember through that all, if I needed to talk to, if I needed advice, Eric was never too busy. Nice. And people used to say a lot of things about Eric being mean. You know, one of the guys went in, for instance, the superstar went in and demanded, hey, I need to get this amount of money on my new contract or I'm leaving. They say Eric looked at him and said, bye. fired him right then.
Mm-hmm.
But this dude, I've never seen that side, even until this day, 20 some years later. If I call him, he pick up the phone. If I needed something, he was there for me, you know, and if I needed kids to do something, he was there to help me. He just always been that person in my life, one of the person in my life that never let you down, who showed you something. And it wasn't because what he did for me. I don't care. You know, I can get $33 million. I'm using that number for a reason, because I just had a conversation with one of my friends. Say, if you got $33 million right now, what would it do? I said, it won't change anything in my life. I just have more money because I've done what I wanted to do in life.
Sure.
I met very good people that, one being Eric Bischoff,
right,
who did everything he said he was gonna do. Never lied, never let me down. He didn't get me in and disappear. He got me in, and if I needed to talk to him, and the one thing I didn't want to do, I never wanted to ask him for anything else once I got there. So I didn't ask him, you know, I could have went up to Eric Bischoff and said, Eric, I want to win the next 5 matches. Eric would have said yes. I could have went up and said, Eric, I want a new car, I want a new hotel, I want this in my contract. He would have said yes. You know? But the thing is, I never wanted to put him in that position. If it didn't work, it would have been because of me, not the reflection on him bringing somebody else in and pushing me like that. So, but I made it work. Hell, I'm still making money today off of that.
Yeah, man, Cat, it's man, in the crazy world that we live in, it's always a blessing to hear about people working hard, it being recognized by another person that recognize character. You know what I'm saying? It's no doubt in my mind that he took care of you and looked out for you because he knows you're a man of character, man of value, man of integrity, you know, and he, even if he may have had issues with other people, he recognized you as being who you are and what you are. And I feel like to a degree that may have brought out the best in him. You know, it's, you know, you hear about cats doing the wrong things and taking advantage of people and doing bad to get over or to get by or to make it. But to hear you talk about your experience with Eric Bischoff, it's refreshing, man. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Now, when I talk about my experience with Eric Bischoff, on the other hand, if I talk about my experience in pro wrestling, it was like gutty. It was like the wretched. It was like, man, it was hard. You know, it was difficult being a black man in like a white world. You know, I don't care what. Man, listen, I heard the N-word. I heard the business guys who I'm working with. I heard them. My very first time when I knew that I could do this, it took, you know, most people don't know, I'm a quiet person, shy person. I don't really talk in front of the crowd. I sit back, I watch people, but I love it. But in front of my friends, I'm a totally different kind of person. I'm entertaining, funny. But I remember the guy came out and I was getting ready to do a segment. I had did something in the locker room to where I had got so comfortable in the locker room that, you know, guys started to play with each other, mess and talk crap and talk to each other, have fun. Right. So I did something in the locker room that guys saw in me. They said, man, if he can be that kind of person on TV that he is in the locker room, he could get over. So anyway, we had this, I ain't gonna call no names, but we had this guy who was over the show. And this was a guy who tell you what time you're gonna be on. He wrote the show. He tell you when you're gonna be on, if you're gonna be off on the show, on a Monday night show. So we was in Detroit, and sometimes the crowd come in, the crowd is kind of, they be on their hands. They quiet. Okay. But at this time he was saying we need a hot crowd, which means during the commercial, when they came back on after the commercial, they want the crowd already in a frenzy, already loud and talking. So he was looking around, looking for somebody. He said, we need something to happen. We need somebody to get out there and get the crowd going, you know, crowd going. we need a heel, somebody who can go and make the crowd boo him. And they were like, hey, can Ric Flair go? No, Rick is not here yet. He just looking around. He said, who was it? Can Chris Jericho go out there? He was like, he's on a segment now. He's doing a pre-tape. Then the guy was looking around. Then Disco Inferno was one of the characters there.
Okay.
And a good friend of mine. He looked at this guy. He said, give it a tap. I said, give what to me? He said, the mic. Then he looked at me. He said, here, take this mic and go out there and get the crowd going crazy. And I was like, what? Going crazy? What am I gonna say? I've never been in front of a crowd like that before. He said, the guy said, do what you do in the locker room. Go out there and do it now. Okay. So he gave me the mic, and right before my music hit, I told myself, I said, this is just something I got to get over. I'm talking to myself with the mic in my hand.
Okay.
I said, this is something I got to do. This is a way for me to pay for my family, buy my mom a new house. I said, this is a career. If I can't do this, then I'm gonna let a lot of people down. And I said to myself, I said, but God wouldn't put me in this position if I can't do it. Then my music hit, bang.
Oh man.
I went out there, and I remember I'm looking at this crowd. We was in Chicago, United Center, crowded too. I'm looking around, and things just started to come to me. I remember watching a TV show where the guy came out real nice, and he said, and the crowd just kept talking over him. He said, I did it again, and the crowd didn't pay me no attention. Then I said, can y'all shut the hell up? And the crowd kind of looked like, what is he doing? Then I was like, first of all, I don't want to be out here in Chicago. That's another thing. I've never seen so many ugly kids in my whole life. And the whole crowd just popped. All the parents, the kids were mad, the kids were bored, but the parents were laughing. They were laughing. And I was like, man, right here now, I was like, man, sit down, man. That's all. I'm sorry, miss. I'm sorry. I thought you was a man. And the crowd just were going. I was just messing with people. Listen, The crowd was, when I left the ring from talking so much crap and having fun with the people, they were cheering me loud, which had never happened. It happened to people like Stone Cold, where they boo you so much that at the end they like you. Right. So when I left, they were cheering. And I remember coming through the curtains, and that same guy who had gave me the mic and told me to go out there unprepared, he thought, he looked at me, he said, you can be great in this business if I let you. He said, if I let you, you can be great. Then I looked at him and I was like, bro, you can't stop me. I got something bigger on my team. The conversation was just like that. He said it, and I wasn't afraid to speak to him because I wasn't talking about Eric Bischoff on my team.
Right.
I'm talking about God put me in this position. So with God, I can do this all. You can't stop me. And that's my thought. That was my thought process through that whole time I was there. When people told me I couldn't do it, I knew God put me in that position for a reason. So I never looked back. But I told people had told me, listen, you're not gonna work tonight in Nebraska. Why not? Well, look at the crowd. They all white. There's no need to put any black guys on Monday Night Nitro tonight. Then I was like, what? He said, yeah, he said, Black Boy Night Off. That's what he's called tonight. He said, Black Boys Night Off. Wow. Now, wait a minute. Black Boys Night Off. Yeah, because then nobody gonna buy your t-shirts, nobody gonna buy this right here. Nobody, they don't come to see the black wrestlers. Wow. So I said, oh, okay, all right. So I walked into Eric office. I said, Eric, they didn't have me on the show, but I'm here. Can you just put me on the spot on the show? Eric said, yeah. He called it right in. They wrote me in the show. And who do you think got one of the biggest ratings that night? It was me. When I went to the ring messing with Goldberg, and he speared me in the back, and I started saying he cheated, now I want to fight him. Man, listen, those guys couldn't stop me in that business. They could not stop me in that business. The only way they stopped me, I stopped myself. Because when I got from WCW, went into WWE, it was totally different monster. I was there by myself. I didn't know anybody there. Didn't have an Eric. I didn't have, Vince McMahon really liked me, but that made it harder on me because Vince McMahon liked me. The other guys underneath didn't like me because of that. They didn't want to.
Okay.
So, it was a pretty cold business. But hell, I got to buy my mom the house. I got to put my kids through private schools. You know what I'm saying? I can go and sit down right now and make money, sign an autograph. I'm on your podcast, And then one thing they'll tell you about me now, I didn't even know this, but I'm a legend. And I'm not calling myself a legend. When I walk in somewhere, Rick, Sting, just all of it. Anybody you can name, The Rock, they come up to me and say, "Man, Cat, how you doing? How you doing?" With respect,
Sure.
And one thing they know, because when I was there, the way I treated people.
Right.
I treated everybody with respect, but I didn't. And people know, they call me. Remember what I told you? They call my Japanese sensei and Shihan of my new style. They call them shooter.
Okay.
A shooter is someone that is not just good at fighting. They know a lot of stuff. You just don't mess with them. It's like shooting yourself in the head with a gun. So I was a shooter. So nobody really messed with me as much because I didn't play with them. But I was a good person to work with.
For sure. And just, like you said, with the respect that you got from different people then and still get, that speaks, and even the respect you got and still get from Eric Bischoff is, it speaks for itself. Would you say that the dance off with James Brown was one of your career highlights?
And meeting Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
And asking Muhammad Ali, can I use the phrase, "I'm the greatest"?
Really?
I had to ask for that. So they had this segment where I would go to his house, keep trying to find him, looking for him all over the time. Then I meet him in California. They were taping the whole thing. And I asked him, "Hey, Muhammad Ali, I know you watch wrestling. Can I say I'm the greatest?" He said, "Yeah, but I'm looking for a check in the mail." And that was the best little back and forth with Muhammad Ali. Then he signed me up. He signed my gloves, gave me a picture with me. And then James Brown, man, listen, I grew up watching Muhammad Ali. I'm 60 years old. Muhammad Ali was the man back then when I was young. Everybody wanted to dance around, be like Muhammad Ali. And James Brown was the godfather of soul. Everybody wanted to be James Brown. Everybody wanted to see James Brown. And I love James Brown, man. So by the time I got old enough, man, and it was so funny, no one ever thought James Brown was gonna come to WCW to be on the wrestling show.
Surprise. Right. Okay.
Yeah, but what I did, I started doing his James Brown stuff with the cape over me and dancing. I did it so much that people who didn't know a lot about James Brown wanted to know more about James Brown. The writer wanted to know so they can write with me. Like, what is he doing when he dropped down on one knee and then Sonny Ono come and put the cape on him and he act like he gonna leave, then he come back, throw the cape off. Like, where is this coming from? It was from James Brown. So when they figured out what I was doing, they started saying, let's bring these guys in, see if these guys will come in and work for them. So they went and got James Brown, man. And James Brown did something right now that's still paying me unbelievable. Not just being with me and allow me to be in the ring and on stage with him for that moment. He put that cape on me and he didn't have to do it. I thought the other guy was gonna do it. Okay. But when I looked over and I hit my knee, I realized that we didn't set it up. So they didn't. Usually I go and I was like Sonny, one of my valets. I said, when I go down on my knee, you come and put the cape on me. I'm gonna do it after this. But I forgot when we got to the ring that I didn't set that up with James Brown or the guy with him who was holding the cape. Cause it was one of his right-hand guys that were holding the cape in his arm. And that was the reason he was there, to cape me. So I thought the other guy was gonna do it. So I'm dancing around, James Brown smiling at me, he just having a good time. Boom, I hit my knee and I forgot, and I kind of looked, but then I saw James turn to the guy real fast and grab the cape out of his hand and came and put it on me. I was like, I didn't even tell him. I said, hell, this is his shit.
Right.
You know, so I don't have to tell him. I didn't have to, but it was just everything that worked so well, man.
Sure.
That when he put the cape on me, I threw it off. I did a little dance. Then he took the other cape, a red cape, and put it on me, and we went out together. So when it was over, I'm talking to James Brown. I couldn't believe it, man. The first thing I did, bow to his feet, you know, because those feet I had been watching ever since I was a little kid. Matter of fact, my mom friends would come over when I was like 6 years old. My mom friends come over, and I'm waiting to hear her call me down. And she said, hey, baby, come down here and see one of her friends over there. So I can be in my 90s stuff. I'll put my shoes on because I know what she want me to do. She said, hey, do your James Brown stuff. I do my James Brown. I was 6 years old, dancing around doing my James Brown stuff. Her friends just laughing, just entertain my mom.
Sure.
So when at this moment, when I'm in there with James Brown and I'm talking to him, he telling me, he said, man, listen, they didn't pay me a lot of money, but I just wanted to come because I watch you and you entertain me, and it was just good. Then he was like, you know, I never caped anybody but on two people. I only put this cape on two people. Now that's you and Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember watching you do that with Mike on stage.
Wow.
He said, yeah, now I caped you. He said, those the only two people ever get this cape. Then I got ready to walk out. He said, don't forget those things over there. I said, what? He said, those capes. I said, could I have them? He said, yeah, they for you. So I told my guy who were with me, the wardrobe, I said, get those capes and bring it to me. Now I got the capes, and they said these capes worth a whole ton of money. They shoot a movie here, a James Brown movie here in Atlanta, and the director called because he heard I had these two capes that James Brown gave me, and they wanted to use them for the movie. And I told him maybe I might let him do it, but he said, you know what? I wouldn't do it if I were you. He just said, I would get rid of it. He said, those capes are so valuable that the only way you get rid of them if you need a kidney. He said, you know, that's the only reason I would even think about getting rid of those if I were you. You know, so I got them hanging in a booth on my wall.
Wow. And it's like they worth a lot of money, but the sentimental value, I'm sure, is priceless for you.
Man, listen, you know what? I give away anything, but those things right there got to stay with me.
Let me ask you, Cat, was your mom alive when that happened?
Yeah.
Nice.
And matter of fact, my mom's best friend, Miss Haygood, was the head of James Brown fan club when they grew up. So she, you know, she's still living. My mom passed in 2014, but yeah, that was a great moment for her. Great moment for her.
I would imagine. Man, you've wrestled some of everybody, a lot of greats. What would you say, who would you say are your top three faves to have worked with, be it wrestling against or wrestling with? Who would you say are your 2-3 favorite people?
Ric Flair, Goldberg, Chris Benoit. Those would be my top three. You know, those be top three. But I got to work with Vince McMahon, The Rock. I got to work with them all. But just to have you know, me, I was so entertaining that I didn't have to be in a wrestling match to be on TV.
Sure.
You know, sometimes they just put on TV just to carry, connect two matches or connect something. I may just go out there and start yelling and get body slammed through a table, and you know, and people get ratings because I was that guy that people wanted to see get popped in the mouth because I talk so much.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. In terms of your childhood, who would you say were your three influences wrestling wise when you were coming up?
Man, it's so funny. It was a person that wasn't even a wrestler. It was my grandfather. My grandfather loved wrestling. And I remember when I was young, He'd sit in there every time wrestling came on, just talk to the TV. And never known that the little guy sitting next to him, his grandson, is going to be a famous wrestler one day.
Wow.
You know, he never knew that. He didn't get to see that, you know, but my grandfather, but then you had people like, you know, I was growing up, we had a grocery store with black owned in my neighborhood called New Worlds.
Okay.
And it was the black owned grocery store that everybody talked about. And I remember I was sitting in my house one day, and my phone rang. I answered it, and they would call it from a telephone booth. That's how far, a long time ago.
Right.
They said, "Hey, Ernest, guess who just went into New World?" I said, "Who?" He said, "Thunderbolt Patterson." I said, "What?" Boom, hung up the phone and sprinted around there. As soon as I got there, I got to see Thunderbolt Patterson walk to his car. You know, every now and then in the neighborhood, you got to see those guys, man, like Tony Atlas. You know, I got to see him just walking around at the mall. He was bigger than life to me, you know? Cause then, man, we were young, and then Thunderbolt Patterson, Ernie Ladd, and Bobo Brazil. Those guys was like, those was the guys I looked up to, cause they looked like me. But then I got a couple of guys that sound like me. Dusty Rhodes,
right?
You know, Dusty Rhodes, and you know, everybody loved Dusty Rhodes in the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Your experience working on the wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, a lot of people don't know, martial artist himself, trained boxing, actually had some pro fights, if I'm not mistaken. How was your experience working on that film?
First of all, it was just part of a dream come true to me, man. It came through because when I was young, I told myself when I was young, one of the things I wanted to grow up and do was to be in a movie. That's what I said when I was young. Yeah, I want to be a karate guy. I want to be a football guy. I want to be on TV doing this. I want to be in the end, I want to be a great karate instructor. I want to have gray hair. I want to be the baddest karate instructor around. I want to be that old man who can still fight. Okay. And so you know, going back to that right there, man, I wanted to be in the movie. You know, I want to be in the movie, but I didn't want to be in just in a flick, just in a movie. I want to be in a movie that would last for a while. That's what I told myself when I was young. I didn't know how to say nominated for an Oscar, a winner, or one Oscar. I just want to be in something that people can go back and look at. And I get a call from my manager. He said, "Hey man, they want you to fly to New York. They shooting a movie about a wrestler, and they thinking about you doing. They want to see you." And I was like, they said, "Where there?" I said, "They gonna fly me out there?" I said, "No, you gotta fly yourself." I said, "What?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna fly myself out there to be in somebody else's movie."
Right.
And it's maybe because you're not an actor, and you got people who will do that to be in there. Maybe you don't know, but you got people who will do that. Sure. So I said, "Man," I was with my wife then, she was my girlfriend then. I was like, "Man, I'm not going out there. I ain't gonna pay my way out there." I called one of my wrestling buddies, Goldberg. I said, "Goldberg, they want me in this movie, but they want me to pay my own way out to New York." He was like, "Man, you cheap, man." He said, "Go ahead." Then he said, "No, if they want you, they should pay for everything." So I told them, I still thought and said, "Man, I'm not going out there." But my girlfriend kept saying, "Go out there and see." Said the director they got, Darren Aronofsky, is one of the top directors. He's like a ground director that directed a lot of good movies. And then he got Nicolas Cage in it. And Nicolas Cage is a great actor.
Sure.
So I was like, I bet you they pay his way out there. So anyway, I gave into it. I got a ticket to fly out that next morning. When I walked in, I'm reading the part. And as I'm reading the part, he got his hand, doing this thing. I thought he was gonna give me the diamond cutter. So I'm kind of looking at, but he doing this kind of TV thing. These are the things that the directors and everybody would do. So he was like, he shook his head. He said, yeah, I like that. I like that. Then him and the other guy said, I like that. He said, can you wait before you leave? Can you wait and read again in about maybe an hour or so? I said, yeah, I don't leave until like 6. It was about 3 o'clock there. He said, just an hour. He said, I want you to read with somebody. Then I'm sitting down in there just talking and eating. And then somebody opened the door, the car drive up. They said, he here. Then Mickey Rourke walked in. And he said, Mickey, can you read with this guy? So we started to read the line that him and me and Mickey had. Then Mickey looked at me and Mickey said, he's a natural. That's what he told Darren. He said, he's a natural.
Wow.
And the natural said everything's natural with him when he doing acting. So Darren said, okay, you got the part. Then he was like, he said, can you stay for a couple of days? I said, yeah, let me change. He said, no, we got you. They put me in everything, man, and took care of everything, man. And I told him, as I started to talk to Mickey, you know, he said Nicolas Cage was doing this part. I said, oh, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, that's what my girlfriend talking about, Nicolas Cage. Said they fired Nicolas for me. Nicolas Cage said, well, they didn't fire him, but he said it was too hard of a part for him to play. A wrestler with some of the stuff he was going to have to do, because he was going to have to fall down and do. He said he did not want to work that hard. And the movie was a $30 million movie. With his family were putting up the production and everything. But when Mickey Rourke came in, Mickey had a bad reputation at that time. They had kind of swiped him and kicked him out of LA. Right. He wasn't doing any more movies. You know, he wasn't working. The insurance bonds and stuff for Mickey to be a lead actor, they couldn't get for $5 million. So the movie was a $5 million movie. It dropped from $30 million to $5 million with Mickey because the insurance wouldn't cover anything, man. Because Mickey was, you know, Mickey was he was a beast. Right. Mickey will leave in the middle of shooting a movie and end up fighting a boxing match in Germany. And he was supposed to be shooting somewhere in another part of the world, you know? And so the insurance didn't cover Mickey. But when Mickey came in, I noticed one thing. He worked his butt out for those parts. He worked hard. He never complained. He was on work. He was at work on time, you know. And we had a good time shooting that movie, man. But as they talked about the movie in there, I heard Mickey and Darren, they used to always mess with each other. Mickey Rourke would say, Darren said to Mickey, he said, I'm kicking your career back in. He said, when you get an Oscar, you better thank me. And they would start laughing. I was like, this little movie is not going to do anything and get no Oscar.
Surprise.
Never thought. I'm sitting at the Oscar now and we nominated for the best movie. And now that movie is still making so much noise now that it's classified as possibly one of the best movies ever made. And that shows you how my life is. All I had to do, like I tell you, is get into it. And God make big things, got big plans for me. So that's how I believe. When football, let me just go out there and try to play. And I made it to the highest level. Wrestling, I don't know anything about wrestling, but let me go try that. I made it to wrestling. Movie, let me try this movie. And it was one movie at that time. My very first movie was an Oscar-nominated movie. My manager looked at me and said, you know, this is what a lot of actors and actresses move to LA. Their whole dream is they just want to be in one movie that either wins or nominated for an Oscar. And here you are, you in one.
Right. Just like that. Cat, what's a word of encouragement that you could give to someone that's going through a tough time right now?
It's not going to always be tough.
Okay. If
you can get through that moment, man, I'm telling you, man, it's sweet at the other end. Like I'm just telling you right now, when I talk about James Brown, when I talk about my career, when I talk about the things I've done, I went through some hard time to get to where I am now. And I look back on those things. I'm glad I didn't quit when things got hard, because on the other side of that, man, was just all payoff was great, you know?
Definitely. What's a word of encouragement that you wish someone had given you when you faced a tough time?
I can do anything I want to do and be whatever I want to be. Just don't ever quit or give up. And don't ever not try. If you think you want to do it, just try it. God will take care of it.
Amen. Ernest the Cat Miller, brother, I appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You are a heck of a storyteller.
Hey, bro, I wanted to tell you some controversial stuff and start some stuff on the internet. But, you such laid back, bro. You got that suit on, you got the dark shades on, the teeth is white. I can't be nothing but nice, man.
Hey, brother. Well, I sure appreciate it, man. That might be a conversation for another day. I might have to call you and you tell me about that.